Got it.
No.
We are
All
processing
right.
live.
Yes, we are. Good to see you, Nuala. I'm so glad we could make it on live today.
I know it's our third attempt. So
Hey,
God,
Nuala, I'm so glad we could make it on live today.
we had the third attempt, so third time's a charm, Tina.
Yep, here we are.
Here we are. So we are talking about more blind spots. I'm super excited about this one, Tina, as always. You always pick the perfect lessons for us, and we would like to think they're by design, but they're really by accident as we need it. And it
Yep.
always works out perfectly. So, welcome
Always.
back. We are happy to have you here. And last week we talked about feedback and growth.
Mhm.
And that was, the one that I loved was I actively seek feedback from others, even though I may not want it. It happens regardless. And even technology, like we were talking about that, this person gets this password, this person. So that's feedback, right? So it's feedback in your systems and processes. And it was really just now I was able to grab a password from something that I'd saved because things kept happening. I'm like, I've got to save this password. I have to have access to it. So that's feedback. So it doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily happen to be from a person. So how about you,
Yeah.
Tina?
I love it because our systems are a list of all of our screw ups. You know what I'm saying? I love this. So, yes, we are on a six-part series, the Leadership Self-Awareness Assessment, and we promised you we will provide this assessment for you when we get to the end of this so you can start to assess yourself. But for now, just grab a piece of paper and a pen and just start jotting down some notes and assess yourself. We've already talked about communication, we've talked about emotional intelligence, we've talked about listening, and as Nuala said, feedback and growth was last week. And this week, we're going to talk about influence and relationships. So, I have four questions for you. So, the first question is on a scale of 1 to 5. So, one would be never, two is rarely, three, you'd give yourself sometimes, four is often, and five is I'm consistent in this. So, the first question is, I understand how my words and actions affect team morale. So stop to grade yourself on that from a 1 to 5. And then number two, I treat team members fairly and consistently. I treat team members fairly and consistently. And then number three is I avoid showing favoritism. And then number four, I intentionally build trust with my team. So now
Oof.
we're going to unpack these, Nuala and I. And so the first one is I understand my words and actions and how they affect team morale. I mean, talk about real time because I just had a call with all of my team leaders just a minute ago, actually, for an hour and a half, right? And I had to share some of the things with them that I don't know if I want to say they were bugging me, but I was.
Perturbing.
Yeah,
Perturbing. Yeah.
I just let them know. I said, listen, I want you to understand that I am not a people pleaser. I'm a people challenger, and I want to challenge us to go higher. And so I just want to share my heart with all of you. And so, the thing that I wrote down was underneath this, Nuala, was people watch what you do more than what you say. And I wrote down consistency between your words and actions build credibility. Mixed messages destroy trust.
Oof. Yeah.
And, talk about real time with this happening, right? And so, literally, I was having this conversation today, but last week we were also having this conversation in one of our salons. We had a salon team meeting, and we were just really talking about how can we have a reset this year, especially so we have new leaders on the team, and one of our team members, team leaders, is going on maternity leave. And so we want to make sure that we don't call this leader when she's on maternity leave. And so we want to make sure we button up and tighten up everything. And so one of the things we talked about was are you following our salon standards as a leader? Because the complaints that they had for some of the team members was that they weren't following the standards. But then I said, are you? And I think it stung a little bit because, again, I'm a people challenger. And so I said, are we sure that we want that as a standard? Because, as an example, Nuala, not necessarily that this is what I talked about. If you're late every day, but you expect your brand new team members to not be late, like, hello.
Yeah. Big, big
It's
one.
not going to
That's a
work.
big one. Yeah, because they talk about that. It's like, the parking spot for the leader should be at the back of the parking lot, not the first spot, right?
Yep,
Ooh,
exactly.
yeah.
Yes, I love that you said that because in fact, John Maxwell taught us that right years
Yeah.
ago. You
Yeah.
shouldn't have the nicest office as a leader, and you should not have the best parking spots. You should be the one walking furthest away.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. Oh, so true. If you're a timekeeper, I though have as a manager, I can share with you, Tina, that, working for somebody else who was challenged with timekeeping, and staff would look at me when I reprimand them or hold them accountable. And then I ended up as a leader, a leader and then a manager. I wasn't the owner. I was kind of in a crossway between two sets of people because there to support the owner and I'm there to support the owner's rules. And then my only thing was, well, when your name's on the door, you can come in whatever time you want.
Yeah.
I didn't believe that, but I had to support the owner and I had to kind of encourage the team members to be on time. And it's challenging. So when you have when you're talking to your leaders, but then you've got to look at yourself,
Yeah.
right? Ew.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hard being human.
Being human, people do what people see. That's it.
Yeah.
People do what people see. And so I think for us is just sitting back and saying, okay, are we sure that this is what our salon standard should be? Because that means you have to do them times 10. You have to
Yeah.
be so good at these and it has to be so habitual. So let's talk through this. And then I gave them a couple weeks, Nuala, and we're going to get back together and we're going to relook at those and make a decision. What are our non-negotiables going to be?
I love that, Tina, because it's not just a one-time meeting. It's like, let's revisit this and see if it is a value that we want in our business so we can stand behind it and support it. So good.
Stand behind it.
I'm
So,
choking.
and then number two is I treat team members fairly and consistently. And, something that I wrote down, Nuala, because it's an area that, okay, literally we suck at this. Okay. We just suck. Okay. And that is documentation. And so we've talked about this until we're all blue in the face, but are you writing it down? Because if you're writing it down, it's like it was, if you're not writing it down, it's like it was never said. And so I'll have a team member bring me like all these challenges, and I'm like, oh, can you send me this documentation? And it's crickets. There's nothing,
Yeah.
right? And I wrote this, having clear policies and coaching conversations removes emotion and creates that fairness. And
Oh,
again,
I love
you
that word.
can't hold someone accountable to something that's not in writing in the first place. And I was just coaching a salon owner on this, Nuala, and I said, by the way, so you were coaching your team member on this, but is this in like a salon handbook? Where is this in writing? And she said, it's nowhere.
Yeah.
And I said, well, okay. I said, let's get it written down.
Yeah.
Let's work on that. And so she is. She's working on her salon handbook and all the systems and the policies, and she's gonna go over that with her team. And so I would love to hear from you, Nuala, like when you coach, and this is where I kind of get deaf ears when I coach my leaders, when I coach salon owners, and I ask them about written documentation. I feel like they get a little bogged down with that.
Yeah. I think because it's not humanized. So that's what it's like. It's easy to put, like, for me, it's easy to document it, but then to make it human
Yeah.
is make it alive. Don't just have it stagnant on a page. And what I love about documents is you can erase it and you can update it. If it doesn't work, Like on paper, these things, yeah, I want to stand behind the policy. But then when we put it in action, because you brought up a word there, which was fairness, right? So, and
Yeah.
fairness doesn't necessarily mean identical. And I wrote down for that there was like every team member has different strengths and needs, but standards and accountability should remain the same. And what I like to say is you don't lower your standards, right? However, if it's not working for your team, you've got to relook at them, not lowering them, because people were feeling for a long time the trend was team members coming in too casual, right? I
Yeah.
think I think our industry has flipped to the other side. There's a lot of people dressing up now, which I see online. You know, they're taking a different sort, even when they're out on their own, they're taking a different sort of pride in their brand. Now they associate it with their brand. But for a while, people were dropping their standards because they didn't want to talk to their team about what they had signed on the dotted line initially, which was professional image. But what does a professional image look like? So it's easy to put it on paper, but
Yeah.
so it's like the
Yeah.
fairness meaning, is it identical? Well, what somebody values against somebody else is different. But again, it's not dropping your standards or breaking your policies or not holding your values. So that has to be lived. So you can buy all these templates, but making it actually alive and in your business is really important. So
Good.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I like to say, make it human.
Make it human. You know, a word we've been using a lot lately, and I love it that my leaders are using this, and I'm seeing this. It's kind of a new leadership buzzword, but I'm like, this is everything that I am. But it's treating people with dignity,
Oh, yeah.
dignity,
Mm,
right?
yeah,
And so it's just like, are you and treating them with dignity? And I always say, like, if you know, to be unclear is to be unkind. So
yeah,
just put it in writing.
yeah.
You say, I just wanted to confirm it, even if it's an email, the conversation that we had, and this is what you committed to. So this is what I will hold you accountable to, whatever that looks like. And then boom, boom, boom. You got to list it out. It's in writing, right? And so it doesn't have to be a write-up,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah, it's what you're talking about is I worked with this new client recently and one employee, and the employee asked if she could, do something that the person was like, oh, I don't know if that's how I want my business ran, but I'll say, okay, in an emergency was this person's answer. In an emergency, it's okay to do X, Y, and Z. And then 2 times later, she's like, I wouldn't classify that as an emergency, she said to me. And I said, so how are we going to address it? Were you clear on what an emergency looked like? And she's like, no, because my version of an emergency is obviously not this person. So it was a great lead into the conversation. I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, but I didn't even know what an emergency was when we talked about this.
Yeah.
So it's
Agree.
clarifying it together, which is really, really good. I love that. I love dignity, Tina. What a great word.
Good word. Yep. Okay, here's the next one. I avoid showing favoritism. And so I wrote this down because I said, give everyone equal access to you. Spend intentional time with every team member, not just your high performers or closest personalities. I decided a long time ago, Nuala, that I would be almost like an undercover leadership coach, so to
Right.
speak, right? And so I have this incredible opportunity. We have 9 companies. So I have incredible opportunity, especially in my salons, to be the leadership coach for every single one of our stylists. And so we have monthly or usually bi-monthly meetings plus a monthly meeting just on leadership training. And so what I'm doing with that, Nuala, the whole time is building safety with them,
Mm,
psychological safety. And I just want to be able to give them access to me too, to also know, hey, I'm available to you, through this process. And so that avoiding showing favoritism so people don't say, well, she doesn't offer. Then in my schools, it's a little bit different story because we have so many team members. But every time I'm always offering, I would love to do coaching for people that aren't like on the org chart, so to speak, of my
yeah.
leadership team. And so, and once in a while, they'll take me up on it and I'll spend, an hour a month with them just on leadership training with them and coaching and getting to know them and working with them on their dreams and their goals.
Oh, that's my favorite part, right? And you always say
Yeah.
that, Tina, that leadership is a privilege, right?
Privilege, and it's a sacred
Yeah.
responsibility. And I don't know, I just want to speak into people's lives and encourage them and help them to live out like really what God has called them to do. And we know, like, let's just be honest, for the most part, people aren't going to be with you forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
helping
What
them
a
to,
great gift. So, yeah, mine is the relationships that shouldn't determine opportunities. And this is big in bigger salons because sometimes it's not necessarily that we're giving the same people opportunities, but sometimes it's easy because then we don't have to train them. We bring them with us on trips and we
right,
don't look at that's kind of like it's easy to take the same people with you or give the same people opportunities because you don't have to restart, right? And you don't have to reestablish with them. So, promotions should be, I think, across the board, like always done on like I used to love doing it on people's anniversaries because then it would be not everybody, so I wouldn't have to look at it. And it's exhausting as a salon owner when you're wearing so many hats. I had to come up with a system that supported me and my energy, right? So it wasn't done annually, it was done on their annual anniversary, which I found was good. And then,
Mhm.
you know, praising in public and coaching in private.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of those, the golden rule, right? So it's like making sure that we give those opportunities to people, that everybody gets praised in public. And then like the coaching happens in private. So it's based on your performance and values of your business. So it's understanding that everybody wants to be the teacher's pet, even if you're most rebellious employee. They do want that attaboy, right? So it's like
Yeah.
that praise. And that's what and I'll go back to disc 100 times over. That's why going back to that and seeing how do they like to be praised? What value do they bring to the business and acknowledging their values. So when you called it like it's that secret ingredient. So it's what makes them tick. So yeah, it takes a little work, but it's very worth it because I always remember when I was a young apprentice, and this is a long, long time ago, my manager told my aunt that came in to see me in the salon, like, it's such a pleasure having Nuala in our salon. And I was like, oh my God, he said that about me. And it made me feel so proud to work there. Right. He might have thought that really, but the fact that he went and said that to my aunt right in front of me, and it's something that always stuck with me because being insecure and young in our industry, you want to know that you're making a difference. So
Yeah.
that's my little spin on that, Tina. So thanks. This was a great conversation. And then the last one, what's the last one again?
I intentionally build trust with my team, and I wrote down be transparent. When you don't know an answer, admit it.
Yeah,
When you make a mistake, own it. Vulnerability builds credibility.
yeah,
And oh my gosh, I just had a situation happen today on this. And we were working with a leader and I just said, listen, when you go silent and you don't share these things with us that you're struggling with, then we can't help you, right? And I said that's the biggest thing that really like makes me sad in leadership. Like I want to build so much safety with you that you are happy to be transparent and vulnerable with us. And so we kind of came up with a new game plan, Nuala. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's basically a weekly email, e-blast of what's working, what's not working, because I want her to admit when things aren't working. And
oh,
that's the only way that I can actually help her to be able to set her up for success through the
oh,
process.
yeah. It's so hard to be vulnerable, right?
So
And to
hard
be
because people,
honest.
yeah, they just want, you to be the data boy, like you're doing so
Yeah,
great, and they
yeah,
want that recognition and the people pleaser, especially people pleasers.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
the majority of people are in our industry, right?
Yeah, and it's to
Yeah.
be brutally honest with yourself can be hard. And I like that idea of just putting it in writing. So sometimes it's hard to say it out loud. So yeah, being transparent. Ooh, It is that vulnerability. That's
Yeah.
really so. Yeah, and that's what I believe. Like that trust is built in small moments in these sort of cases. So again, go back to what you said, being on time, keeping your promise, and
Mhm.
following up with what you say you're going to do. And if you don't, then just admit it. So yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like the small things. And that's it. Sometimes it's where do we slip, not where do we fall, because we all fall, nobody's perfect. And we're
Yeah.
all learning. Even you're just saying that you're reinventing ways of encouraging your team to try new things because yeah, we can become stagnant. So I love these blind spots, Tina.
So good.
It is
And
so good.
I hope it's not making people feel like, oh my gosh, I can never get there. But hey, leadership's a process. It's not an event. Pick one small thing that's
Yeah,
doable.
as
Small.
Tina
Yeah.
said, we believe it's a journey, not a
Yeah.
destination. And we want to try and bring you these tips every week. So if you're committed to becoming more aware, more confident leader, subscribe, join us next week. And if you know another leader in our industry who would benefit from this, please have them join us. And because it can be lonely, Tina, right? Even our leaders
It
on
is.
our teams can feel lonely. And
It's
yeah, together, we can definitely elevate the professional beauty industry. Tina, thank you so much for showing up twice today to do this. I really appreciate
yes.
you, your time, and your contribution. Have a
All
great
right.
week. We'll talk
All
to you
right.
soon.